All right. Well, good Friday morning, everyone. 48 First Alert Meteorologist Eric Burke. If you're joining us, we are on YouTube right now. We're on the WAFF 48 Facebook page and on my Meteorologist Eric Burke page. That's where I'm monitoring comments. We've got meteorologist Chelsea Aaron. She'll be joining me in a little bit. But wow, what a morning. This winter storm really starting to dump some heavier snow across the area. And I think for certain parts of North Alabama, Middle Tennessee, this will probably be some of the most intense snowfall that we see over the next maybe hour or two. A quick note here, we will be on over Tennessee Valley Living starting at 11 a.m. on WAFF 48, and we're going to go straight through the noon newscast. So from 11 to 1, you will have live continuous coverage. We've got our teams out in the field, just kind of taking everything in. So we're just going to go over basically what's happening, what's going to happen. We're going to talk somewhat about the roads and then the transition to kind of that wintry mix, the sleet, the ice potential. A lot to cover on this Friday morning, but it's really coming down out there to say the very least. So let's get right to the radar here this morning. And this is, we're using the Columbus, Mississippi radar. A lot more pink obviously showing up compared to what we were seeing this morning. That was all that kind of uniform snow. I know I got into work this morning about 2:30 or so. Leaving my house, air temperature was 36 degrees, and the road temperature is about 38. I actually had some raindrops on my way into work, and then by the time about 3 a.m. hit our western counties, the snow started, and it hasn't really let up since. And now we're seeing a bit more sleet coming in, and kind of that messy part of the storm, that's going to start to ramp up almost right on time. We've been saying like 9:30 to 11, and if you just look at the radar, that's starting to come together here. But just look off to our south, they're starting to see some of that cold rain out toward Jasper, for example. You go down into Birmingham. Now, all these places also saw quite a bit of snowfall here this morning. But looking now, the places that saw the most snow earlier, that being parts of Lauderdale County, out there toward Colbert, Lawrence, into Franklin County too. I think you're really starting to see that sleet transition. And actually one of the cooler ways that we can track this is by using the correlation coefficient, what we call the debris tracker that we use when we're tracking severe weather. Now this product is going to show kind of the messiness here that you see. And this is actually all that sleet, because the sleet and ice pellets are not uniform, unlike the snow that's far more uniform. And you'll see as I change the radar, you go over to this blue area here from a high top radar, and then if you look at debris there, things are a bit more uniform as far as the color palette. Now you've got that yellow starting to move into parts of Limestone County, Athens, down into Morgan County too. But this is what we're dealing with right now, and I just stepped outside our station here, and the size of the snowflakes right now are absolutely massive. I would say quarter size or larger, but things are not great. Winter storm warning, obviously, that continues. This goes until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. And the wording on the National Weather Service winter storm warning, their key messages are basically saying, if you don't have to be on the roads, stay off of them. I know we've got reporters that are dealing with all the emergency managers and ALDOT and seeing exactly who's closing roads and which roads are impassable. I know I've gotten several from our reporter Savannah Sapp. Arab roads impassable, DeKalb County roads impassable. Just that just list goes on and on. It's too many to go through. We'll have more of a thorough updated report on what's going on outside coming up again from that 11 to 1 o'clock window. Snowfall totals, I'll go through some of them. I built a graphic here, but it's just easier to kind of read them aloud. Put the radar back up so you can kind of take that in here. Getting reports of 5.5 inches of snow out there in Florence, Lauderdale County. We've got, it looks like about 3.5 there off Old Madison Pike. 4 inches of snow in Russellville. Looks like 3.5 there north of Moulton in Lawrence County. 5 inches of snow, that's 7 miles north of Killen, again, Lauderdale County. Whitehead, 5 inches and a quarter. We've got 3 inches of snow 4 miles south of Athens in Limestone County. Looks like we've got near North Florence off Cox Creek Parkway. They're about 4 3/4 at the moment. And I mean, the reports are going to continue to pile in here. They're going into the Weather Service chat. 2.8 inches, and that's 7 miles southeast of Triana there, Morgan County. 4 1/4 in Hartselle. I saw 4 inches in Waterloo. That was actually one of our earliest reports coming in as far as official snow reports coming in. You guys have been fantastic. I know our digital team has been just overwhelmed with the amount of photos and videos that you guys have sent us. Everyone chiming in right now in the comments with your snow reports. Appreciate it. Photos always great. A ruler in the snow. More than helpful. A lot of you have been sending me Facebook messages to my Facebook page. I've been getting reports on X or Twitter, whatever you're calling it these days. But I do want to talk about not only what's happening right now as we're seeing that kind of mix settling in. We'll go over to the NextRad radar here. And this is where it's starting to get a little messy already. This precip is showing some green moving over you in Red Bay out to Vina Hodges toward Russellville, Phil Campbell. And this is getting into the window now where we've got the fresh snow on the ground. And now we're going to start to add some sleet on top of that. And worst case scenario, we start to see a bit more freezing rain, adding that glaze of ice. Now the ice totals are going to continue to kind of gradually build up, and we'll talk about that using the model data here in a second. But just want to show you who's actually starting to see that switch over through parts of Marion, Winston County, through Coleman County. You're about to see that transition. Just talk current temperatures really quick. And starting to see 33 from Muscle Shoals to Russellville, 32 Haleyville, at freezing in Coleman. And these temperatures are going to start to warm up. We're seeing that warmer air coming in from the south, and that is going to start to mess with our precipitation type. We were showing you this, and this was the graphic that spurred a lot of you yesterday to just say, oh, it's a bust already. We're just going to see sleet. This is not the snowstorm or winter storm with the sleet and the ice that we saw a year ago, almost to the day. But we are still expecting this messy part of the storm. It will continue to snow for a lot of you for a portion of the rest of the morning into the afternoon. But a large majority of us here, at least in North Alabama, we're going to start to see that messiness coming about in the form of the sleet. And the difference between the sleet and the snow comes down, it's nice and quiet and peaceful. You'll know when you start hearing the sleet, because the sleet is kind of noisy. It's louder when you hear it hit the roof of your home, your windshield of your vehicle, when it hits the windows of your home too. We are still anticipating this to happen. Basically from now, you see the graphic that I haven't changed since this morning when I got in, 10 o'clock to 4 p.m. And then we'll see that transition back to snow, or at that point could just be flurries, but still anticipating some decent snow accumulations here as we go through the rest of this event. This is a long duration event as far as it's going to be all day, and the travel impacts will be felt all the way through Saturday. Some of you might not see a big improvement on the roads until we get into Sunday, but winter impacts, hazardous travel at this point. If you don't have to urgently go somewhere, just stay home. Your students are home, they have a snow day. You might be working from home, or you just have the day off as well. Just stay home if it can be avoided. I'm going to show you all our different cameras that we have across the area, and you'll just start to see more and more of what we're talking about regarding just things are not good out there. Really panned out kind of the way we drew it up. I say unfortunately, this is what we were forecasting, but unfortunately, it's actually happening, and now we're dealing with that. Excuse me while I take a sip of water. Again, meteorologist Chelsea Aaron will be joining me in a little bit, kind of with some additional information for you. But here's a look in the shoals. Now this camera, I couldn't get the snow off of the lens. And I was showing you kind of that transition to more sleet because the sleet is more icy. It is an ice pellet essentially. It's actually cleaned off the lens. So that's a good sign, a bad sign, I should say, that we're starting to see more of that transition. It's more confirmation than anything. Another snow report here, 4.8 inches. That's Rogersville in Lauderdale County. And so that's the shoals. Let's go high top Saturn V. There's some 300 feet in the air here. And because this camera is facing west and a lot of the snow is moving from east to west, you could actually see. And not too many people out there on 565 at the moment. We go out to Gunnersville now. And that's actually the best visibility that I've seen. We haven't been able to see City Harbor or the bridge over the lake there. So it seems, if you look really closely, I'm not sure, you're probably watching on your phone, it does appear that we're seeing sleet and or even the rain that would potentially be freezing rain because it's falling, liquid raindrops that cause that glaze of ice once it hits something frozen, i.e. the snow that is on the roads and the ground. Out to Decatur at the moment. Should have a look here if we could see anything. This is another camera. It's looked like that pretty much since about 4 a.m. So we haven't got a great look there at Hudson Memorial Bridge. I'm sure that's one of the slicker spots there. Here's I-65 in Athens. And just to show you how much snow we've gotten over the past 5.5 hours, at 4 o'clock this morning, it was dry roads, no snow on the grass, no snow in the parking lot. Initially, when the snow was falling, our road temperatures were still above freezing. So it was melting when it hit the roads, but the grassy areas, elevated surfaces, that was starting to see the accumulation of the snowfall. Now, it looks like they've been taking some plows to the road, or just the amount of traffic that we've seen on I-65 is kind of eliminating some of it, but people are still out and about. I did not catch the details on the Huntsville officials talking about the road conditions. Looking at the parkway, it appears it is still open. I know they put the barricades out last night. They obviously haven't put them up just yet, as we are looking. This is an elevated road now. When you get the air over and under, that air that is currently right about 32 degrees, this is why we always say bridges and overpasses are going to freeze first. Let's go along 565 here in Madison County. That's a look at the Zert Road intersection. And then I'm going to move that camera for you. Intersections, obviously, that's where you get the most traffic. So you can see a little bit of pavement, but that's also where that slush starts to build up. And that slushy, wet snow, that's where it's going to pull your vehicle kind of when you're in that turn there. And you look off to the east-southeast now. Our most notable landmark, Saturn V, is usually right there on this camera. Well, you can't see it at the moment. So we still have poor visibility across the area too. Go out along 72 here. East Limestone, still have big snowflakes coming down too, so that's going to continue to pile up. You can still see a little bit of grass in certain areas, or dirt here. Now this is going to be some taller grass in this camera facing the other direction. A lot going on, and it's going to get a little more complicated regarding the forecast. So far, I think our graph model has really done a pretty good job handling this. It seems to be picking up more so, maybe not for parts of Lauderdale, far western Lauderdale and Colbert County, because you are seeing that sleet kind of mixing in now, but it is starting to hint at more of that pink, that sleet transition. The ice, now the sleet pellets will still accumulate, and that will be on top of the snow, so it's going to be harder to get just kind of accurate snow readings. The one thing I think this is missing, though, is some of that colder rain that's coming in. If you go to a different model here and show you the NAM, now the NAM was the one that took that big warm bias. Now it seems to be doing okay at the moment, or the model run I had this morning really showed this kind of cold rain, freezing rain potential way up over the state line into parts of Tennessee. Now, I think this is a bit more accurate. It seems like this different run is doing a generally better job, especially when you compare the temperatures there. So we're starting to get above freezing here the later you go in the morning into the afternoon. And that's not only the temperature here at the surface, but you go up a few thousand feet in the air, we're still getting that warmer air coming in. And that's why we're seeing more of the sleet coming instead of just the straight snow like we saw through the morning. And the temperatures this morning fell very quickly from about 35, 36 degrees. Once the snow started falling, you have to think all that snow in the column of air or the atmosphere, how fast that drops the temperature of the air. In a span of about 15 minutes, we went from 35 degrees to heavy snow showers and an air temperature of 30 degrees. But this is kind of the messy scenario that's going to be unfolding as we start to go through the rest of the day. And then finally, I think we start to see everything turning back over to snow. This model actually keeps us a little bit warmer. Go to the high resolution, rapid refresh here. This is 10 o'clock, starts lifting in that green. Now, I mentioned that the graph is really leaving out kind of the green. It's kind of keeping us drier. It lacks moisture. I think we're going to see more of this kind of rain filtering in, and then that's where that concern of ice starts to build up. Now, look how far north that pushes that rain to. Areas that would likely just continue to see snow. This model is thinking, no, we get this big warm surge, and that raises our potential for ice and that freezing rain. Let's go to the ice model and see what it says. This is why we were kind of favoring Sand Mountain, DeKalb County in particular. If we get a 1/4 inch of ice on top of the snow that we already have, that's going to be real bad news for people out there in DeKalb County, maybe parts of Marshall County. You go into Morgan County toward Brindley Mountain, for example. That's kind of the sweet spot, I think, if we see ice, but it's actually starting to push that ice, at least this model is, close to 2/10 of an inch from Russellville out to Moulton, too. So we'll have a better idea of what kind of rain, freezing rain potential we're dealing with as we start to warm up here over the next couple of hours. So, yeah, that is bad. Now, I think this model might be on the higher end of things, but anywhere from 0.05 of an inch to that 1/4 inch can't be ruled out as we go through the rest of the day. Go back to the radar for you. And I'm going to switch radar sites, go back to Columbus so we can kind of see that messiness filtering in now to parts of northwest Alabama. Right there along the Tennessee River near the Quad Cities, Florence, Tuscumbia, out there, Muscle Shoals, you know, that's where you're seeing there's a fine line at the moment, and then over the state line farther west, we're seeing a bit more rainfall. At least that's what the radar is thinking is coming in. Now these areas, we're always highlighting the areas along and south of the Tennessee River. That's going to be the icy spot. In particular, I would say kind of, you know, this window here, where I put the X, somewhere that we'd potentially be running into more of an issue. Switching out the radar sites, going over to high top. Look at how far north that snow goes. I mean, it is happening. And even seeing these brighter colors right now, if you click on some of these areas, anywhere from 32 to 40 dBz on the radar returns, that's very impressive snow here in parts of far western Limestone County. Those are the big snowflakes that are coming down right now. I posted on my Facebook page showing you how big the snowflakes were actually falling outside of our station here. So forecast coming together as anticipated, leading to that wintry mix kind of messiness that's going to come here through the next couple of hours. I would say by about 4:30, 5 o'clock, whatever moisture is left over, that should transition back to snow showers, probably in the form of flurries here. And the bad news about that is we can not only see additional accumulations coming from this, but we could also see that snow falling on top of ice too. if those areas do see the freezing rain. But this has been a real impressive snow event for us here, and it continues to our east too. A lot of people in Atlanta, they were banking more on the freezing rain potential and kind of a sleet storm through the Atlanta metro, but they are getting the snow just as much as we are too. So the models, some of them hinted at the fact that we would just see, that initial burst of snow, but it's hanging on through about 10, probably 11 o'clock for a lot of places, unless you live in very north, like right along the state line, along Tennessee, Alabama state line. And in Middle Tennessee, I anticipate you all continuing to see snow as we go through the rest of not just the morning, but into the afternoon. Trying to check some of our cameras again. The shoals by the Wilson Dam camera, I do think that's really starting to turn over to more of a sleet mix here. I look at 565. I know you're not seeing this on your screen right now. Has stopped all precipitation. Rebecca, thank you for that report. I see 3 cars right now on 565. So that's good. People are staying off the roads, which is what we hope you do. We gave you about a week's notice of this potential storm here. Very slow-moving cars on the parkway. Looks like we've got a couple Huntsville PD officers. See if I can pop that up for you quick before they're getting on what would be the eastbound 565, kind of that turn, taking it very slow. And then eventually you go on up over Chapman Mountain towards 72. Actually see that here, turning the camera more so. There's Chapman Mountain. A couple cars look like they are able to make it over Chapman Mountain. Not a lot of reports actually here of accidents. I know there are probably some vehicles that have slid off the roads and everything. But as far as just the traffic volume has been so much lighter than it normally is that, we just don't have the amount of accidents. Raining and Phil Campbell, okay, that's good ground truth. That's kind of what we're anticipating, and you're probably going to see that here for the next while now. Sorry, responding to someone. But basically, that's what we're looking at. Just a big, messy winter storm, and we're about to see a lot more mixed precipitation coming in as we go through the next several hours. So checking to see if we have any new. We've got 3 1/4 inches of snow, Capshaw and Madison, Old Railroad Bed and Capshaw, and getting the report there that it's transitioning to more mixed precip, sleet. Small icicles reported in Albertville. Changed over to sleet in southern Limestone County near the nuclear plant. And just the reiteration from the Weather Service, stay off the roads. I know first responders are still out there, and they're trying to do their thing. Slightly sleeting in Dogtown now for the last 90 minutes, icing over our snowfall. I was trying to tell people this morning, morning newscast 4:30 to 7, if you were going to go out and build that snowman or play with your kids in the snow or have your snowball fight or any sledding, you kind of had to do it early, because once it starts sleeting, it's not pleasant. Sleet does not feel good when it hits your face, and it's going to ruin the quality of the snow. So I'm going to step out to the newsroom really quick. I'll be back with you in just a moment. Sit tight. We'll be back. All right, just wanted to get a quick report and a quick drink of water. Just kind of getting everything in with my producers as far as what we're going to do from 11 o'clock to 1. Again, no Tennessee Valley Living with Peyton Walker today. We will have full storm coverage of this winter weather event. Meteorologist Chelsea Aaron joining me. She's going to grab a microphone, and we will have team weather coverage. We've got 4 or 5 reporters, I think, out in the field. We'll be checking in with them. We've got some awesome snow photos and snow videos that you all have kindly and generously sent us this morning. Oh, there it is, Donald Bradford. Snow cream. As a northerner, that was not a thing for us, and I still don't understand it, but I know that's what you guys do down here in the South. So if someone wants to give me an explanation of what exactly goes into your snow cream, I would be intrigued to learn. But yeah, definitely the highest snowfall totals as anticipated. There was no change from Brad's forecast that he showed you all last night. I did not make any forecast changes to that. That snow map was fantastic, and it's verifying. We had 4 inches in Waterloo around 7 o'clock this morning, and I'm guessing they're going to be pushing probably 6+. So though now some of that on top of the snowpack is actually going to be more of that sleet. I know we had that report in Phil Campbell of just rain now, and we'll continue to see that transition as we're getting our temperatures are now right at freezing or above freezing in certain spots across the area, mainly south of the Tennessee River, and that trend is going to continue to push farther north. Still looking at a threat of freezing rain and ice. I forget where I was reporting the icicles. That came in National Weather Service chat too. This is going to be not pretty. Roads are bad as it is, and that's just with snow. But now that we're seeing more of the sleet and freezing rain potential, this is where it's going to get very, very treacherous on the roads. And that Weather Service statement with their winter storm warning now just advising no travel whatsoever. A lot of emergency managers are just saying, hey, roads in my county, impassable. That's going to continue to be a trend here.
And Eric, those icicles you were talking about, that's being reported in Albertville now, small icicles. And again, that ice threat will continue to increase as we head throughout your mid to late morning hours, and especially by the afternoon. We're noticing that that freezing line continues to push farther north, and this is basically right on point for our forecast, I think, Eric, like you were mentioning with Brad talking about those snowfall totals. Highest snowfall totals, again, going to be northwest Alabama, right across the Alabama-Tennessee state line. They could easily get 6-7 inches, maybe even more than that. Some models were hinting at that, especially last night. The GFS is known for throwing out crazy snowfall totals, but they definitely added another 2 inches or so to already some places that we're going to see very, very high snowfall potential. Still seeing some big flakes coming down, Eric. I think we started seeing this around 9 o'clock, and the heavy snowfall potential that will continue to pick up in areas like the Metro Huntsville area, if it's still happening in Decatur as well. I'm going to go ahead and put it back on our 48 first alert Doppler. Where you're seeing that pink color again, that's trying to depict a wintry mix. So more than likely it's going to be sleet. Note the sleet could be heavy at times, and we also said that yesterday. It's right along the Tennessee River basically. If you're north of the Tennessee River, excluding portions in DeKalb County, you're still mostly seeing snow. In southern middle Tennessee, you might see snow throughout this entire event. The farther south you go, really south of Highway 278 into central Alabama, you're starting to see cold rain. But I'll even mention, I'm just from west of Birmingham. They're in Jefferson County, and my family, my sister, they saw nearly 3 and 4 inches of snowfall. Now think once we start seeing more of that wintry mix throughout the day as this warm layer starts to lift north, it could potentially melt some of that beautiful fluffy snow that we saw really all this morning.
Yeah, just talking with Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis. He was watching the live stream on YouTube. He's reporting about 4 inches of snowfall out where he lives near Harvest, in the Harvest vicinity. And this is going to start to get really just kind of unpleasant if you are outside with the kids and you're playing in the snow. And then all of a sudden you start getting pelted with the sleet coming down. That's probably when it's time to chalk it up and get a good solid lunch, or make that snow cream quickly if we're going to do it. Otherwise, it might be more of like an icy that you'd have at a ballpark or something. Everything really, though, playing out almost down to the hour of how things initialized, started. We saw the very high snowfall rates. We had the first report come out of Florence. I think it was 4:30, and they were at half an inch. By 6:30, they had 2.5 inches. So that inch per hour snowfall rate was very consistent and accurate. That led to the 1 mile or less visibility. That led to the quick accumulation on roadways. It also effectively cooled our air. Think of that column of air with all that snow coming down, dropped our temperatures about 5 to 6 degrees, depending on where you were this morning. But I came in, roads were perfect, actually ran into some raindrops. Temperature was 36 at Huntsville International Airport. Road temperatures were at 38. Over the course of an hour or two, things changed very quickly. And at first it was just the grassy elevated areas, and then now we've got the snow-covered roads. Be careful in those intersections. Once that snow becomes more slushy, it's going to tend to pull your vehicle a lot more. Think of the initial part of last year's winter event when it was that slushy sleet, and it just tends to pull your car usually right toward the curb or unfortunately the ditch on the side of the road. But it is really coming down. We'll have some updated snowfall totals for you coming up. Really highest amounts still located over northwest Alabama, but that's also one of the locations now where we'll start factoring in some of that sleet accumulation on top of the snow when it comes to the official reports for this event.
And Eric, just checking some of the comments. Thank you. Whenever you're seeing snow, please let us know. Go outside with a ruler. If you're having fun, still seeing snow, especially north of the Tennessee River. Britt, Blanton, close to 6 inches in Florence. Also getting some reports from the National Weather Service. 3 inches in Elkmont. That's going to be in Limestone County. This is from the EMA. This is going to be in Marshall County. Currently sleeting in Gunnersville, and yeah, places like Hartselle, Moulton, Russellville, back down into Double Springs, Coleman, Albertville, which Coleman, you've been seeing some pretty moderate sleet for over an hour now. All of those places more than likely seeing sleet. Decatur, you might be seeing more of a transition of snow on the northern edge, some flurries, but again, sleet will be more probable as we head throughout the rest of your morning and definitely by the afternoon. How far north that freezing line will rise, that's going to be the real kicker. But more than likely, once we get all of this sleet and or freezing rain, which the freezing rain potential is still for primarily our northeastern counties, that is going to make travel conditions even worse, which they're already bad out there. Please do not travel unless absolutely necessary today, but it's going to be like the setup last year. Now, last year, granted, we got more ice than anything, so it was bad pretty much from start to finish. This year, we got all of the beautiful fluffy snow early on, but what's going to happen is the sleet pellets and all of this possibly ice in terms of freezing rain is going to form a thin layer, a glaze, on top of that compacted snow. And of course, temperatures are going to fall very, very quickly as we head into the evening hours. So it's just going to be an icy mess. And note, the city of Huntsville has been doing a very, very good job. You know, they're plowing the main roads first, and of course getting to the secondary roads, things of that nature, the back roads later, the most heavily traveled areas. I know when I was coming into work this morning, there were still some people on the parkway. Now granted, driving very slow. I know I drove about 20 to 30 miles per hour, but note, you cannot drive on ice at all. So travel not recommended, especially past the afternoon and into the evening hours. We're likely going to see travel impacts into the upcoming weekend, and there's nothing you can really do about ice, especially sleet.
And someone asking a good question about when will the roads refreeze tonight. Yes, all
Quickly.
of this is going to refreeze. Some of the models are keeping us at about 35 degrees, maybe as late as about 9 o'clock tonight. I think that's a little late. But yeah, we are anticipating widespread travel issues all the way through the evening, continuing all the way overnight, a good portion of the day on Saturday. We're looking at hazardous travel across the area. Could see some improvement, at least on those main roadways as we go into Saturday. But some of the more rural, less traveled roads, some of the more mountainous and hilly terrain, those roads might not see substantial improvement area-wide until Sunday. I wouldn't be shocked if we had a couple school districts that, if anyone does pan out and see the ice and the freezing rain, that could potentially be out of school on Monday, maybe even into Tuesday too. Unlike last year, we're not expecting these sub-zero temperatures to stay with us for a long time. That's where we had that deep freeze. We were seeing people with losing power and stuff. No power outages, to my knowledge, reported just yet. And it's still cold out. It's not very windy. It's kind of pleasant. It's almost the ideal day, if you were out there earlier, to play in the snow. It was 30-ish degrees, wasn't too windy, and it was the good packing snow. Now that more of the sleet and some of that mixed precipitation is mixing in, that snow quality isn't going to be as ideal when you're out there building that snowman or doing your snowball fight or whatever your preferred snow day activities are.
And I'm just taking you through some of the model runs. You know, Eric mentioning some model guidance has us basically freezing back over later in the evening. I agree. I think we will more than likely see freezing temperatures area-wide, possibly as early as 7 o'clock this evening. That might be a stretch, but I feel our messaging has been consistent, and travel issues are likely lingering throughout the entire day and into the weekend. A few flurries possible still Saturday morning. Granted, they're going to be very light and isolated in nature. And then Saturday, going to be just another raw, cold day. Now, temperatures could briefly hit the middle 30s through Saturday afternoon. That's when we could see partial melting, but note, more than likely, another refreeze will be coming overnight Saturday and early on Sunday morning. Sunday morning looks brutally cold. Temperatures, again, in the 20s, lower 20s possible. And those back roads, the secondary roads, they still could be icy, even the shaded areas, sheltered valley locations, early next week.
And Brad just texted me saying he could hear the snow to sleet transition. I mentioned that the snow is quiet and peaceful. The sleet tends to be more noisy. As the sleet pellets start to hit your roof or the windows on your home, you'll know if you're not outside. You could just hear it usually when you start getting that more mixed precipitation. You could usually visually see it too. You kind of get the Dippin' Dots starting to bounce. And the sleet is funny because it bounces off the snow or the pavement, which I'm guessing most pavement across the area is now snow covered. But and if you go to the radar, Chelsea, please, we're seeing that sleet line now lifting over north of the Tennessee River too. So some of those models that brought that sleet mix all the way up to the state line, if we continue to see this trend, I believe this is a 45-minute loop on the radar. If we see another 45 minutes from now, that sleet line could very well be right up to the state line between Tennessee and Alabama.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to be watching for. I know a lot of people yesterday got very heavily discouraged, disappointed when we were talking about the possibility of the sleet, the wintry mix, freezing rain, cold rain, basically every precipitation type that you can think of. However, we all got snow this morning. It's just basically depending where you live will determine the rest of the day for you. If you're more south of Highway 278, you're more than likely going to see possibly some sleet mixed in. You've already seen that, and also a transition to cold rain. Areas basically along and north of the Tennessee River, I'll go back to that graphic to help explain it. You're going to see more heavy sleet than anything, and then right across the Alabama-Tennessee state line, most of Middle Tennessee, they could see snow during the entire duration of this event, and even a sliver of northwest Alabama as well. And that freezing rain potential, this is what we're watching very closely. We also mentioned this several times yesterday. We're basically right on the cusp. Usually the threshold is 1/4 inch of freezing rain. It does not take much freezing rain at all to cause significant issues. With more sleet in the forecast, you get more travel impacts. Freezing rain, the highest impacts with that is going to be power outages, which would not be a good thing. Granted, we're not as cold as we were last year, but it's still dangerously cold that if you do not have adequate heating, your power goes out for an extended period of time, that could be potentially dangerous. So freezing rain, that area is going to be in orange. And that is basically far eastern Morgan County, much of Marshall County, all of DeKalb County. So if you're in Rainsville, if you're in Fort Payne, Albertville, Gunnersville, Boaz, even into Etowah County. And this freezing rain is going to be basically liquid that freezes on contact with any surface. A lot of people yesterday asking, what's the difference between freezing rain and sleet? Well, freezing rain falls as a liquid, but it's going to immediately freeze upon contact with anything that it touches. Think of tree limbs, power lines, and this is what will cause potentially some power outages, again, if we get to that 1/4 inch threshold.
So we're going to wrap this up here. Again, programming note, no Tennessee Valley Living today with Peyton Walker. We want to do some snow coverage for you, plus the guests with Tennessee Valley Living would have had a really awful time getting here, and we don't want to have them risking it to come on the show. But meteorologist Chelsea Aaron and myself will have team weather coverage from 11 o'clock right on WAFF 48. We'll be streaming on our platforms as well, and that's going to continue straight through our new newscast. So live coverage, we've got teams in the field, 4 or 5 reporters joining us from across the area. They are everywhere. We'll have road reports. We've got fun photos, videos, everything to share with you. So everyone at home, stay warm, enjoy your snow day, and hope you guys tune in at 11. We'll be here.